All right, with the November election right around the corner, we're going to break down the city council race for the Village of the Hills. Think of this as your simple, straightforward guide to who's running and, more importantly, what they stand for. So, what's at stake? Well, this year we've got 3 open seats on the city council. That's a pretty big deal. It means nearly half the council could change, which makes this election absolutely pivotal for the community's future. And get this, vying for those 3 spots are 5 different candidates. With more people running than seats available, you, the residents, have a real choice to make about the kind of leadership and vision you want for the Hills. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll introduce you to the candidates. Then, we'll dive into where they stand on the big topics, starting with the great debate around growth. After that, we'll look at core community issues like water and energy. We'll also pinpoint each candidate's unique focus, and then wrap it all up with a simple guide on how to vote. Okay, first things first. Who are the 5 residents asking for your vote? Let's do a quick meet and greet. Let's start with Tom Harrelson. He comes from an executive leadership background and is currently the president of the Hills POA board. He's also been a community volunteer for a long time. Next is Martin Khait. He's an incumbent, which means he's already on the city council. He's been serving as a liaison for Parks and Rec and the Welcome Committee, so he's definitely deep in the day-to-day of city governance. Our third candidate is Karthik Naralasetty. He's an entrepreneur who's even been recognized by Forbes and has become a pretty prominent voice for civic reform in the community. And, full transparency, he's the founder of the Hills Observer, which is the source for all the info we're covering here. Then there's Madison Wickham. He's also an entrepreneur with over 16 years of experience building businesses right here in Central Texas. He's been living in the Hills for almost a decade. And finally, rounding out the 5, we have Gary Wolff. He's a business grad from UT with a ton of experience in property management, and he's also overseen some major capital spending projects on various boards he's served on. Now, let's get into the issues. One of the biggest questions for any community is growth. How do you manage it? It's a huge point of debate in this election, and each candidate really has a different philosophy on what the future should look like. This is where it gets really interesting, because you can see the different approaches laid out side by side. Harrelson is all about proactive planning with local partners. Khait, on the other hand, wants to limit development to keep that small community feel. Naralasetty is calling for thoughtful, data-driven development. Wickham favors a more cautious project-by-project approach, and then Wolff is looking outward, saying we need to coordinate with neighboring cities. And this really highlights the 2 ends of the spectrum, doesn't it? On one side, you have Martin Khait's view, which is about protecting the community's character by putting the brakes on expansion. And on the other side, you've got Gary Wolff's approach, which is about working with cities like Lakeway and Bee Cave to manage those regional pressures together. But hey, it's not all about growth, right? The candidates also have different takes on the really essential stuff. So let's see how they approach the core issues of water, energy, and how to handle state and federal mandates. You can see a big focus here on readiness and reliability. Harrelson wants to invest in modern infrastructure, while Wolff suggests doing field audits. Both Khait and Naralasetty really emphasize having strong partnerships with emergency services and utility companies. And when it comes to mandates, you see a whole range of ideas, from Khait pushing for strong local control to Wolff saying we need to fully comply but seek formal exceptions when we need them. So, while the candidates might agree on a lot of the basics, each one brings a unique priority to the table. You know, that signature issue that really defines their platform. Let's take a look at what makes each of them tick. For Tom Harrelson, it's all about public safety and emergency preparedness. Martin Khait's platform really centers on community unity and bringing more civility to local discussions. Madison Wickham's priority? Making sure the Hills stays a safe, family-friendly place. And for Gary Wolff, it comes down to fiscal responsibility, making sure every tax dollar is spent wisely. The source material also gives us a closer look at the path of its founder, Karthik Naralasetty. His unique focus is all about government transparency. It's a platform he really developed during his run for mayor back in 2024, and he kept that momentum going by championing reforms like live-streamed meetings through his publication. And this campaign message really says it all. No closed doors, just open conversations. It perfectly captures his focus on making local government way more accessible to everyone. Okay, you've met the candidates, you know where they stand on the issues. Now for the most important part, actually casting your ballot.
Here's all the key info you're going to need.
Go ahead and mark your calendars. Early voting runs from October 20th all the way through the 31st. If you'd rather wait for Election Day itself, that's Tuesday, November 4th. The polls will be open from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And probably the single most important resource to have handy is this website, votetravis.gov. That's where you can double-check that you're registered and find your exact polling location for both early voting and for Election Day. Super simple. So there you have it. That's the rundown. From how we manage growth in our infrastructure to how we foster a sense of community, the direction of the Hills is really in your hands. This vote is going to shape the village for years to come. So the only question left is, which priorities are you going to choose?